All right, ladies, we are back with kind of part 2 of the episode that I just recorded. Same day, same outfit, same cup of tea in my hand. Butter and Jelly is still snoozing on the chair next to me in my podcast studio. And let's jump into a very digestible take on cycle syncing. So as I talked about in the last episode, please make sure that you listen to it, is how to track your cycle. And obviously, and I don't even think I said it in this, this is really important, is this only goes if you are not on hormonal birth control, right? If you're on hormonal birth control, you do not have a normal, clear cycle. So you can't track it like you would like to. But I know a bunch of you have been asking like, okay, well, how can I have a cycle when I'm pregnant or when I'm, in perimenopause or when I am, I am postmenopausal, etc. I will do an episode on that. Do not worry, do not fret. And in the meantime, before that even comes out, I will write a little blog post on it, which I will link below for you guys right now so you can listen to that if that is you. But for this episode, what I want to do is I want to give you guys a busy woman's take on cycle syncing. And why I want to give this to you is because cycle syncing is a trending topic right now, which is great. We're all becoming really aware of how fantastic it can be for your body. That's awesome. And just like anything, I don't want any woman to trip into, I don't know whether disordered eating is the right phrase, but just like perfectionistic tendencies with cycle syncing, because just like trying to, nail the right diet, be paleo, don't eat this, etc. I don't want women to be like, oh my God, I can't eat a raw carrot because I'm on day, 23 in my cycle, and in my luteal phase, I can't eat raw. We're just limiting ourselves from enjoying life. And the number one thing that you need to do if you want to heal your body and ensure that your body is at its right healthy weight, is feeling vital, is having balanced hormones, can easily conceive, because a sign of full fertility and full health, a sign of full fertility, being fully fertile is a sign of full health, right? Being able to conceive easily is a sign of full health. The number one thing that is going to get you that is chilling the fuck out. Chill the fuck out. If you are being anal as hell with your cycle syncing, it's going to have the reverse effect. Because the whole point of cycle syncing is ensuring that we are reducing stress for your luteal phase so that we are not depleting your progesterone stores, and then that's causing hormonal disruption. Right? So the number one thing with cycle syncing, if you were to do one thing, it's just chill out a bit more with your exercise in your luteal phase. Because if you're not chilling out in your luteal phase, you deplete your progesterone more, which then has this huge domino effect for all your other cycles and for your hormonal imbalance, your sleep, your hair, your bloating, your digestion, your libido, etc. So the number one thing is just to chill out and not do this perfectly. I'm going to be really frank with you guys. I don't do cycle syncing perfectly. I know that you can like fucking seed cycles and blend this and ground up your flax seeds. I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. I can't do that. And I don't fuck that. I'm not fucking grinding up flax seeds in a coffee grinder. Now, if you're actually trying to heal from major hormonal imbalance, it's a different story. You should grind the fucking flax seeds in the coffee grinder. But if you are just trying to live your life in a way where you are not trying to be like a man, where you are not actually gaining weight because you are putting your body in a stress response from how you're exercising, this is how you want to do it. So I want you to think about, okay, this is cycle syncing for keeping my hormones balanced, not trying to necessarily heal from a hormonal balance. Do this to heal from a hormonal balance, but not imbalance, but not only this, you also need to be doing other things, right? But if you just want to keep hormonal balance, like the state that I'm in right now, then this is what you want to do. So firstly, during my luteal phase, which is different days to yours, you need to know your days of your luteal phase, right? So that's why I'm just saying phases. I'm not saying days, because this is something that I'm seeing online. If people are saying from days this to this, no, my days of my luteal phase are different to your days, right? Like with, people say, oh, you ovulate day 14. No, you don't. Only about 30% of women ovulate on day 14. I ovulate on day 18, for example, sometimes 17, right? I track that to make sure that I'm knowing where we're at. I say we because my cycle is also joint with my partner, right? In that we are not trying to conceive right now. And so I'm monitoring my cycle and communicating that with him so that he knows where I'm at in my cycle too. So we're not falling pregnant, because we don't want to fall pregnant right now. We do in the future though. I really do. Anyway, so in my luteal phase, what I do is I slow down a little bit more. So I don't do any cardio. I don't do any HIIT. I don't do any of that. I sometimes, if I have a lot of energy, if I'm feeling really, really energized that cycle, I sometimes will do some low impact cardio, right? So I'm getting my heart rate up a little bit. I'm getting a bit more like circulation and movement, especially if I've been on like a flight or traveling or been on a long drive or been like sitting all day and I actually feel intuitively in my body like I want to fucking move. I will do a little bit of low impact. Nothing more than 25 minutes. Absolutely not. And I'm often taking the easier options in the class than the harder options in the class, right? And this is just like low impact online with the Pilates classes that I do. I know you guys are going to ask what Pilates classes I do. I do Bailey Brown's Pilates classes. I've done hers for years since we met in Sydney. And then I also do a little bit of the Pilates class as well. I like both of them for different reasons. I don't like one better than the other. I think they're actually really, really, really different, the Pilates classes. And like the platforms are really different in terms of like their philosophy and everything and how they do their classes, etc. So sometimes I want one, sometimes I want the other. So I'll do a little bit of low impact cardio sometimes. Most of the time in my luteal phase, because you want to reduce your stress and not stress your body out, is I am doing like slow burn reformer classes, nothing that's getting my heart rate up heaps. So I have a reformer in our house, in our gym. So I'll do a reformer class maybe. I'll do like a slow burn, right? So mat Pilates, like a good fucking burn. And that's it, right? So I'm doing like chill, satisfying burn muscle classes, right? Like sore bum. And then on my period, right, when I'm in my menstrual phase, first day of my menstrual phase, I often won't exercise. I might go for a walk. I might do a stretching class. Sometimes like I really like to move in the morning. So sometimes what I do is I get on my reformer for like 15 minutes and I'm just doing some like leg stuff, gentle, just literally moving the energy in my body, waking up my body in the morning, getting my circulation going, because circulation is really important, right? But you don't want to be stressing your body out unnecessarily. Once I'm in day 2, day 3 of my cycle, etc., then I will start to do some of the similar classes that I'll do in my luteal phase, right? Not pushing myself though. As soon as I start to get a little bit tired when I'm doing like a class or a rep, I'll just pause for a little bit, take an easier option, or just take a bit of a breather and then start again. There's no pushing involved. No pushing. Because that pushing is what causes the stress response in your body. And while some of you might be like, yeah, but I love to push myself in a class, like all the endorphins. I'm like, no, it's adrenaline. It's not endorphins. Like you do get endorphins, but when you're pushing yourself to that point, that is adrenaline. That is a cortisol release. And yeah, it feels fucking good. It's addictive. That's not endorphins, right? You can get endorphins from doing a slow burn class. That comes from like the movement, the blood circulation. When I'm in my follicular phase or after I've come out of my period, I'm starting to increase what I'm doing in my workouts. There's still no like jumping into HIIT, jumping into cardio, jumping into that on my first day of coming out of my period. No. I'll still do a slow burn class, maybe a little bit of low impact, but nothing major. Then as I'm getting more into my follicular phase, I will then be really enjoying low impact classes. I'll be on the reformer. I'll be getting my heart rate up. I'll be pushing myself in that follicular phase and ovulation. I will push myself, but I never push myself too much in a workout. I'm never pushing myself where I'm like, oh my God, I'm dying. I can't breathe. I'm exhausted. Because all that does is that releases a pile of adrenaline in your body, depletes your progesterone stores, right? Which is going to throw you off in your luteal phase. And the increase of stress in your body is not good. We have to remember that it's not just the stress from your workout. It's then you have to go to work and you add on the work stress and the traffic stress and the social media stress and the blue light and the environmental toxins, all of those added things. So take out take out the stress that you can take out, right? It will really help with the cycle. It'll help with your hormones and just having good general hormonal balance. So that's what I'm doing for exercise, right? We'll start with my menstrual phase. So in my menstrual phase, I'm eating more warming foods. I don't want to be having raw salads. I'm eating more to nourish my body, and just more warm foods. I will try to avoid eating raw, Do I not eat sushi if we're going out for sushi? No, I'll eat the fucking sushi. I'm not perfect with this by any means. So I don't let cycle syncing affect what I'm eating. I'm not like, oh, I can't go out to that restaurant tonight because it's all like sushi and raw and there isn't like a warming food option that's perfect for my ovaries and my womb right now. I'm not that person. But I am the kind of person where, because I'm like the cook at home and I cook, I will choose to cook more grounding, nourishing foods in my luteal phase if I can. If we're traveling, I will maybe choose the more grounding option on the menu, but I'm not going to have a freak out if I can't find it. Like my body's going to be okay because I'm generally speaking reducing my stress. And if you're being anal about the food that you're eating, it defeats the whole fucking purpose, because all you're doing is then increasing the stress about being stressed because you can't find the food that you want to eat, like the perfect grounding meal. Do you know what I mean? Like the whole point of cycle syncing is to reduce your stress. So don't add the stress on by trying to be perfect about it. So in my luteal phase, in my menstrual phase, I'm thinking more warming, grounding, root vegetables, meat, curry, stews, warm salads in summertime, etc. And eating more, right? So in my luteal phase, like I said in the last episode about what's normal, is if you have high levels of progesterone in a good way, not too much progesterone. If you have a good amount of progesterone, how you'll know this is no PMS, no bloating, and none of that kind of stuff before your period. And you will get really fucking hungry. Why you get really hungry is because your metabolism increases, right? Progesterone boosts your metabolism, so you're burning through more food. So you've eaten your fucking breakfast and 10 minutes later, you're ravishing and could eat your arm. Welcome to your luteal phase. I actually get so hungry that it literally annoys me. I have been in tears before because I am so frustrated by how hungry I am and that I'm sick of it. So we always take snacks everywhere in my luteal phase because I can get really fucking hungry. So I've just learned to just embrace that in my luteal phase. So that's my luteal phase. I eat more in my luteal phase. On my period, I'm not necessarily always more hungry. Sometimes I'm a little bit more hungry than usual, but usually as soon as I get my period, that luteal phase hunger kind of fucks off, thank God. And in terms of what I'm doing in my menstrual phase and towards the end of my luteal phase is I'm just allowing myself to do less, to sleep more, to go to bed a bit earlier. I am knowing that that's going to be supportive for me, especially in my luteal phase and coming towards the end of my luteal phase. It's going to be really supportive for me in not feeling this huge drop when I'm bleeding. But if I'm not sleeping enough and if I'm pushing myself too much with work in my luteal phase, then I'm going to feel this huge drop on my bleed, and it's going to be, my bleed will be really draining for me. And I don't want that, right? I'm all about like sustainability, and for you to have this like sustainable level of health and success and growth. And if you're up and down with your cycle all the time, then all that's going to happen is that, you know, you might be high in your ovulation and you push yourself in your luteal, so you're still like fucking flying up the charts. But then as soon as your period comes, you drop down and you're further below than what you were when you started. So it defeats the whole purpose. So I'm about like sustainable, slow, like more like slower growth. I'm hoping you guys are getting the visual here instead of like this up, down, because it doesn't actually make you achieve anything faster in the long run, right? So then in terms of follicular phase, when I'm coming out of my menstrual phase, I noticed that with follicular and ovulation, this is generally speaking across the board, but not always, is especially around when I'm getting closer to ovulation, my hunger levels are really not there. Like I'm not that hungry. In my luteal phase, there's no way in hell that I could go to, until 12 with no food. For example, like if we were out traveling or whatever, absolutely not. When I wake up in my luteal phase, I am going downstairs to make tea and I'm getting some food because I wake up starving. Whereas in my ovulation phase, I'm not like that. I can wake up and I could eat breakfast at 11 and I'm fine about it. Also in my ovulation phase, sometimes I won't even have lunch and I'm fine. Maybe I'll have like, some carrots and hummus or something at like 5 p.m. and then make dinner. But I can survive a long time with no food. I'm not nearly as hungry. In my ovulation phase as well, if I, in terms of embracing food, if I wanted to have more like salads and raw things, especially in summer, that will be the time that I will choose to have it if I easily have a choice. If I'm cooking at home, they will be the weeks where I'm like, let's have salads, let's have this, let's have that in summer. And then in my luteal phase, if I'm at home, I will try to have, like I was saying, more of those grounding things. Also, then in terms of, and that's kind of like the food side of things, right? Now let's go to the work side of things in terms of cycle syncing. And I'm hoping that you guys are getting that there's no overthinking about this. It's like, if I can choose, then I will. The main thing that I'm actually really aware about, and not anal love, because I don't like, it's like more just a choice because no one else is involved in your exercise routine, right? Like I can do Pilates anywhere, anytime, in any sized place, wherever we're traveling. Food is harder because if you're traveling, for example, if you're going out to a restaurant, you aren't always in control. So the food one is like chill out a little bit when it comes to eating the perfectly right things in the different phases of your cycle. Exercise, that's easy for you to control, easy, right? Then you have the work stuff. So with work, how I try as best as I can is, like I was saying, I think in the last episode, is during my follicular phase and ovulation, I will try to record more podcasts, videos, anything recording where I have to do a lot of talking. I will try to do that during this phase of my cycle, follicular phase, ovulation. The reason being is because the amount of estrogen that you have in your brain, you're better at communicating. I can articulate my words better. I have a clearer train of thought. It's a lot easier to communicate and speak during follicular ovulation. When you get into your luteal phase and you have a lot of progesterone in your brain, you are great at thinking, but it's a little bit harder to communicate, right? It doesn't mean that you can't. It doesn't mean that it's like, oh, I can't do a speech today because I'm in my luteal phase. Like that's where I draw the line. I'm not like that. If I had to record a podcast, I'd record a podcast. I've recorded plenty of podcasts in my luteal phase. I'm on my period right now and I'm doing absolutely fine. So this isn't something that limits me. It's just more like, if I have a choice, if I'm ahead and I can think like ahead, then I will. But if I'm not, it's okay. I'm not going to die. And my cycle is going to be okay. So, and then during my ovulation phase, I'll do more of that speaking, recording, really like energy output stuff. Sorry, in my ovulation. Did I say ovulation or luteal? In my ovulation phase, I try and do more of that energy output stuff, right? I try and do my events when I'm ovulating. If I'm in my luteal phase, I'm going to be okay. I just know that I'm going to be a little bit more tired at the end of my event days. And so I'm going to make sure that I sleep more and rest more before my event days to make sure I have plenty of energy, for example. I actually don't mind doing my events. So I did my event in New York this year in my luteal phase. I think this year in Australia, I'm in ovulation, but I know I did my event my event last year that I did. Wait, what year are we in? March. No. So my event that I did last year in New York in April, I know I was in my luteal phase, and I actually don't mind it because it helps me stay really mellow and I don't get overexcited. I don't like overexert my energy, causing me to be burnt out in my luteal phase, because that can happen, right? You can get like so sucked into the beauty of the ovulation phase that you can actually then burn yourself out and you're fucking exhausted in your luteal phase because you overdid it in your ovulation phase, if that makes sense. So I have to be careful with that because I can overdo it in my ovulation phase because I get so much energy. So I've had to learn to just monitor that. So I kind of like it when I'm doing my events in my luteal phase because I stay way more mellow and chill than if I'm in my ovulation phase. But we'll see for this year. I'm going to make sure when I'm in Australia, I try and keep myself mellow. And luckily my fiance will be there and he keeps me very mellow because he can't deal with me being like bouncing off the walls energy. Poor guy. Anyway, so then in my luteal phase, what I focus on doing is more of that planning, analytical thinking, right? So all the progesterone that's in your mind during your luteal phase, if you have the choice, this is the time to then be doing this. So if I have the choice to choose, I have the time and I'm ahead enough, I will try and do planning stuff and like writing and content in my luteal phase, like all that typing, planning, execution, making the content, making the Instagram posts, making the reels. I'll try and do all of that in my luteal phase. And then in terms of like the speaking, being on camera, energy output, I try and do that in my ovulation phase. Is that always perfect? Absolutely not, right? But for example, when I was writing my book, if I had a choice to do a big writing chunk in ovulation versus luteal, I'd push it to luteal and I would record a podcast in ovulation. If I'm ahead enough, I really do try and work with my body because I'm like, well, I'm ahead enough. I can delay it another week to then record a bunch of podcasts in my ovulation and they're going to be easier for me to record. So why wouldn't I do that? It's kind of like you work with the strengths in every phase of your cycle so that the work that you then do it requires less of you. It isn't as hard. It isn't as strenuous for your body, your mind, your energy levels, right? So, and then obviously when I'm bleeding and I'm on my period, I'm in really reflection. I I do actually enjoy writing and making content during my period because I find that I'm really intuitive and I'm just like, fuck it, send it out. Like, I don't even care. But I will really use that time to slow down, to reflect, and I try to do less work. It's only 4 or 5 days for me, my cycle, right? So I've got a pretty average cycle length. And I'm like, you know what? I can focus on my clients. I can get what has to get done. And then I'm actually going to rest a little bit more during this time or do really easy work during this time. And I'm going to save my energy for when I drop into my follicular phase, and then I'm going to pump shit out. That's my kind of mindset around it when I have the choice and when I'm ahead enough, right? So I'm in my I'm like the last day of my period right now. And so, for example, during this cycle, it's looked like going to bed earlier. It's looked like sleeping in a little bit more, exercising a little bit less, especially because we've been traveling. So I'm aware of like really making sure that I don't just like throw my body into, being back at work and stress and like full time. I mean, I was working when else I was traveling, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to just throw my body back into anything. And then what was I going to say? I've been like editing a bunch of pictures and whatnot from our trip and making content. So I've really had less energy output during my period. And whilst I've been creating and getting things done, it hasn't been like a bunch of collaboration with different people. It hasn't been getting me on like an adrenaline high from getting too excited about different projects. When you're on your period, if you can avoid getting on like big meetings where you get really excited and then want to like execute till 3 a.m. on a new project, try to push the meeting, because obviously we all know this, right? When you get really excited, you just want to keep working until 3 a.m. and you don't want to do that during your period, because then you don't recover during your period the way that your body needs to. And then your follicular phase is a shit show because you're burnt out because you've been pushing yourself too much. So it's kind of like during your luteal phase, during your period, by slowing down, it allows you to speed up more during your follicular phase and ovulation. So during my follicular and ovulation, I will sleep a little bit less if I want to. I can stay up a little bit more. I can push myself a bit more. I can get more work done. I can kind of be a little bit more in that, like, not grind, but like pumping workout for the day, right? Because I feel it and it feels good and it feels easy. And then during my luteal phase and my period, even if I want to, even if I'm getting super excited about something, if I can, not always, but if I can, I will delay it until I'm in my follicular phase. And that's taken a lot of commitment and self-discipline, but it has helped me a lot in terms of keeping my energy levels sustainable for a long period of time, rather than being like high, low, high, low, high, low. So the main thing that I want you guys to take away is like everything that I said is a very watered down, basic, broad example of cycle syncing and like what to do. And I want you to throw out, or I invite you to throw out any, I have to do this day, this day. And then when I do this cycle, do these 3 things. Because what I notice happens is it just puts more pressure, more stress, more perfectionism, and it doesn't give you the result that you're trying to give yourself. Instead, I want you to, or I encourage you to cycle sync in a way that actually works for you and that is sustainable and that will work in the long term. You know that phrase, what exercise should I do, or what diet should I be on, or like, whoa, like that phrase, like whatever one you'll do, right? So what sort of meditation should I do? Whichever one you'll do. What feminine practice should I do out of these 5? Whichever one you'll do. And what that is meaning is whatever is easy for you to stick to, do it. Don't do what somebody else can do if it's 10 times harder for you and it feels out of alignment, because then the purpose, which probably is like relaxation, let's say, or like reducing stress, you're not getting that same purpose, increasing your stress. It's stressing out your nervous system. It's not decreasing stress and increasing relaxation, for example, like the meditation. Okay. So I really hope this was helpful for you guys with understanding a little bit more about cycle syncing and kind of just having a busy woman's idea of cycle syncing, making it really easy, making it doable. I don't want you guys to overcomplicate this at all. There's a bunch of resources on my website, a bunch of blog posts. There's so many more episodes that you guys can check out about understanding your period, your cycle, your hormones, what's going on for you. If you need direction of what episode to listen to, look at the podcast directory on my website. And I've also created a new section that has like a long list of symptoms that you might be experiencing and what program is best for you, or like what container with me. So I'm going to also link that below as well. So that way, you guys can have some direction. But as I always say, please just reach out. If you're not sure what program to do first, please reach out so that we can give you the best direction. Even if I'm not replying to you and Olivia is replying to you, everything is run through me. She has like a million resources to be checking before she gives advice. I've trained her up, like she knows what she's doing, and I trust her. So I want you guys to know that because I trust her, which takes a lot for me to like trust somebody with the baby of my business. And like, I'm so devoted to my job. It's literally, I just recently learned how intensely it is written in my birth chart that it's almost to a detriment that how devoted I am and committed to helping people. So I would never let somebody give you guys advice if I wasn't 100% backing what they said and trusting them with that role. So please share this episode on your Instagram with your friends. Get the message out there. Let's make cycle syncing and understanding your cycle something that's really easy. I don't want this to be like another thing that women have to do. I don't want women to feel like, oh my God, it's another fucking annoying thing about being a woman. No, this is something that's going to make your life better and easier as long as you do it in an easy way and a way that works for you. Okay. Do not forget that if you need help healing your period, my program, Your Perfect Period, is the best place for you. And also do not forget that I currently have open my new healing masterclasses for your skin and for your gut health. So if you are struggling with digestion, bloating, acne, skin rashes, etc., and you've tried all of the physical things and you're like, maybe it's energetic or emotional or related to like trauma or something, then these energetic healing classes are for you. We'll put the details below. Any questions, you let me know, and I will see you guys in the next episode.